Have you ever met Supermom? Now maybe you might be thinking of your own mothers. I might not necessarily be referring to our mothers, which I hope all of us had a beautiful relationship either now or in the past with our mothers, that they were so wonderful to us, nurturing to us. Very important to have a good mother, and hopefully we've all had that experience. But I'm actually talking about Supermom, capital S, capital M, this suburban phenomenon of these people who are a whirlwind of energy, an endless pit of energy, who can multitask to the nth degree. Crazy. You probably know someone like that, or maybe have seen someone like that in action. So it's kind of endemic to the suburbs. So let's take a peek into a typical afternoon of the life of Supermom. Where is she? Well, she's just dropped off one child to karate lessons, the other to dance class, and the dog to the groomer. She's at Costco. She knows the store really well, and she's so focused, she's so driven, so she's got her cart, she's going back and forth up the aisles as quickly as she can, so she can get back and pick up all those 3 persons from her, and dog from her family. But if you notice, on the cart that she has, she's got her tablet. And she's on a web conference, because she's actually also working from home, and so she's participating in this meeting that she's supposed to be on as she's shopping. And she also has her iPhone, and in the iPhone, she's got one earbud in her ear because she's also listening to the latest James Patterson novel on ebook. Right? So she's doing all these things. And what did she do when she left home? Well, of course, she had to put the dinner in the slow cooker. She's got one of those automatic vacuuming devices, a Roomba. So the Roomba is actually vacuuming the living room and the den, and of course, she's cleaning her up. So she's doing all of these things all at once. It's amazing. It kind of makes you tired, exhausted, just thinking about all the things that she's doing all at the same time. Supermom. Is this good, what Supermom is doing? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's out of necessity, because this is just how her life has become. Oftentimes, we all know, you have to kind of juggle things in your life. We don't know, maybe Supermom is actually a single mother, and so she has to do all of these things because that whole burden is on herself. But of course, we'd love to know, where's God in the midst of Supermom's life? And maybe we'd ask her, and what are some of the things that she might say? She might say, oh, God, yes, well, I'm sorry I haven't been to Mass for the last few Sundays. The kids had these soccer tournaments. We've been all over the Northeast. I just couldn't get to Mass. Or, I am on the run just about every day of the week, 6 days of the week. It's so exhausting. I just need that one morning where I can just be calm and not have to be running out and doing something else. Or even, you can see, I've got so many things to do every day. I just can't fit prayer into my life because my life is already full. I'm on 100%, 110% overload. What has happened to Supermom is she's kind of, pushed Jesus out of the picture. And what would Jesus say about this? Well, we can contemplate our passage from Mark today, chapter 4, very famous passage of Jesus and the disciples on this boat in the storm. And you notice that what happened was they got onto the boat, and the disciples actually invited Jesus onto the boat. It's kind of like our own lives, where we have good intentions. We want God, we want Jesus as Christians to be with us. And so, we invite him along on our journey, but then things happen. And of course, there's this storm. And what really happened to the disciples is they've kind of forgotten about Jesus, even though he's right there. They've forgotten who he is. Now, at this point in the Gospels, they might not understand the full impact of who Jesus is, but they knew him as at least this marvelous teacher and maybe something more. And they kind of forgot all that. He's right there. And they've separated the tasks that they need to do, which is kind of survive this storm and drive the boat, from the fact that their master is right there in the boat. They've kind of separated these two things. And where are they? Well, they've kind of taken a few steps back in their faith. Well, you might know, way back in the 6th century, there was this gentleman who we now call Saint Benedict, right? And Benedict was pretty amazing because he wanted something awesome out of his life. He just wanted to serve God. And so what he did, he eventually became a monk, and he created these sort of rules about how you devote your daily life to God, and they became, St. Benedict's rules, and many monasteries run the monasteries this way, and of course many people, lay people, have brought this back into their lives and work the same way, and this is where we get, he didn't come up with this phrase, but I believe this kind of summarizes his beliefs, the theme of our holy hour this month, Ora Et Labora. Now, if you know Latin, you know it's not Ora Aut Labora. That means pray or work. Ora Et Labora, that they're meant to come together, that somehow, some way, we're meant to take every aspect of our lives, remember that God is always with us, and integrate our work, our tasks, the things that we do, whether they be totally mundane or something very special, and always make sure that God's in there, and to sort of offer these tasks that we do, as menial as they might be, up to God. So how can we help Supermom? Well, we could say, Supermom, are you thankful for your children? These children that you have come from God, and as you're driving in the car with them and taking them to all the different activities that they have, are you? Then they're right there. Are you thankful for them? Do you thank God for them? And then when you come back home and everybody's gathered around the table, do you say grace at least at dinner time? To thank God for the food, because many people around the world don't have food. And maybe when you're in your car, maybe you've got some kind of a medallion, like one of those little sort of one-decade rosaries that you can hang over the knobs on your dashboard, or, she's probably wearing a cross. Maybe she could kind of touch that cross during the day and say, thank you, Jesus. Jesus, help me, I'm a sinner. Anything like that, just to kind of bring, Jesus into her daily life. Maybe on that iPhone, instead of James Patterson, maybe every so often you should actually bring up Hallow. There are lots of little things you can do in just a couple of minutes on Hallow, right? All different kinds of ways. Maybe she can do these things. Maybe it's not about Supermom. Maybe it's really about us. It's so easy to point the finger at others as to how they live their faith life. It's so easy to look for the splinter in someone's eye when we have the log in our own eye. And maybe this fictional Supermom reminds us of ourselves. Where is it in our lives that we are kind of like Supermom, in which we're so bent on being on the run that we've just kind of forgotten who placed us here and who gave us that ability to run? Where's God in my life today, in my menial tasks that I do? Where is he? And how can I bring him more into my life? In simple ways and in profound ways. I think this is what Jesus actually challenges us with. And that phrase, Ora Et Labora, helps us to remember that, yes, we always can bring the tasks that we do, our position in life, our vocations as husbands and wives and mothers, fathers, and godparents and great-grandparents, and whatever our roles are, whatever those roles are that God has given us and blessed us with, in these roles, in simple ways, we can give thanks to God. We can be thankful, and we can bring Jesus into them. Because what did Jesus do for us? He died on the cross for us so that we would be able to get closer to God, that we would be able to celebrate sacraments, that this pain and suffering that Jesus did for us as our brother allowed us to get closer to God so that we could bring God into our lives. Not just us sort of going out to God and maybe getting to heaven someday, but for living with him today, consecrating our lives to him today in everything that we do. And always remembering that our faith is right there with us because it's God who gave us that faith. So today, this evening, brothers and sisters, I think it's a great opportunity for us to just think about our daily lives, our daily tasks, things that we do, and where is God in the midst of all of that? How are we at integrating our work and our faith life? And I think those persons who are out there, especially single mothers, deserve our prayers because they are working so hard. They truly are busy. They really have to hold things together. And I think they deserve thoughts from us. We might know people actually like that in situations like that. So we need to pray for those persons who have a difficult life because they're raising a family, for example. And always, in all circumstances, pray for ourselves that we can bring that great beauty of God into our lives in the simplest ways. And yeah, it's good to be busy. Sometimes we can't avoid the busyness in our lives, But if we can consecrate our day in whatever we're doing and however we're busy we are to God, then we're getting closer to what God expects from us. It's okay to be super, but it's even better to be saintly.